VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
Well, thank you, Mr. Morris, and welcome to Crosstalk. Good to have you with us today. Vic Eliason, your host, and we have, well, this is Friday. I'm trying to clear the desk of all the stories that are here, and I'll be very honest with you. Some of these things are very, very heartrending as you hear stories. One story that was just handed to me, which is very, very difficult to share, but it is factual, and it has to do with a Jewish woman, a Jewish woman in Iran, who refused to turn over her home to a mosque. Islam is a religion of peace. Mosques are places where peaceful worshipers gather. And no one should ever be concerned about a mosque going up near their home. Never. Well, a Jewish woman in Iran was murdered, cut in half by Muslim extremists who wanted to take over her home, Israel Radio reported on Thursday. Relatives of the woman said that she had lived next to a newly built mosque, and the worshippers had demanded that she and her family leave their home so the mosque could be expanded. The woman submitted a complaint to the authorities about the efforts to take over her home. On Monday, a group of thugs came to her house, murdered her, and according to reports, cut her body in half. The event left the Jewish community in Iran and estimated to, it just shocked them, estimated to be about 25,000 people worried and fearing escalating violence against them. But remember, Jews and Christians in the Muslim world are protected. That's what they say. They pay protection money in the form of certain agreements. They're not persecuted too much unless they don't make way for a mosque or unless Islamists take over. And so we have the religion of peace. The religion of peace. And we are, it leaves me speechless. How long is Israel going to stand by patiently without there being some reaction? Now, our correspondent in England, Robert, sent us this interesting story. From England, government goes back on the word over gay marriage in the church. Now, the government has turned back on its promise not to allow same-sex marriages in church. Robert, thank you for sending this. Its consultation repeatedly promised that same-sex weddings would not take place in churches or religious settings, only in civic. But under plans to be revealed next week, the government, this is the British government, will give its backing to religious organizations that wish to conduct the same-sex weddings. Now, of course, we see the Prime Minister of England, Prime Minister David Cameron, a man who is, quote, on the cutting edge. Well, folks, this is alarming, and I'm sure our listeners in England have good reason to be concerned. We move along to some other stories. Kind of interesting. There was there were releases just recently on government records detailing government funds expended on first daughter Malia's trip to Mexico. That's Malia Obama, the little girl. Apparently, not only does Mr. Obama have a vacation that costs how many $1 million, and then Mrs. Obama has a vacation, and she ultimately has a separate budget. And now we have, Judicial Watch today released records detailing the government funds expended on first daughter Malia Obama's March 2012, that was the spring break vacation to Mexico. And according to the records obtained from the U.S. Secret Service as a result of Judicial Watch's Freedom of Information Act, a FOIA, lawsuit filed on September 20th, the total cost of the trip for this little girl to go to Mexico, well, it goes like this. Ground transportation, $23,964. Lodging, $21,682. Airfare, $47,767. Vote vouchers of $21,636, not even itemized. And support charges of $449.66. Travel from one Mexican city to another. Now, Malia Obama's spring break evoked controversy after the Obama White House reportedly ordered the removal of press reports detailing the trip on March 19, 2012. Now, don't forget, it is the White House who has Bo the dog, and there is a dog handler who takes care of this dog, and the salary... The salary, wouldn't you like to be the dog handler at the White House for $105,000 a year? Now, folks, this is adding insult to injury, because this is all at your expense. This is not coming out of some mystical pocketbook. No, the total cost of Malia's trip to Mexico, $115,587. This comes directly from Judicial Watch versus the U.S. Secret Service, and the court case gives us those numbers. Does that concern you? Well, we'll talk about it a little bit down the line. How many of you would like to have your teenage daughter go to Mexico and have that kind of a... Well, let's go further. We talked about Prime Minister David Cameron. We mentioned that one already. A successful New Mexico high school soccer coach who claims that he was forced to resign after praying for an injured opponent is in the market for a new team, he told Fox News. Now, let me back up and say it again. This is a successful New Mexico high school soccer coach, who claims he was forced to resign after praying for an injured opponent, is in the market for a new team, he told FoxNews.com. His name is Tom Hirschman, a special education teacher at El Dorado High School in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he was told to resign last month for violating district policy twice. Most recently during a match in September in which the Albuquerque Public Schools 2010 Girls Coach of the Year prayed with an opposing player after she was injured. The 9-year veteran coach also violated district policy last year, he said, for watching 2 movies, Soul Surfer and Forever Strong, with female players that featured religious themes. I had not gotten administrative approval to show them because they had religious overtones, Hirschman told Fox News. That was their objection. Hirschman, 42 years old, continued, 3 years ago I was up for the National Coach of the Year award, and to move from that to being forced out, it's kind of hard to take. Well, your comments on that one, folks. The soccer coach who lost his position because he prayed. Now, 70%, we've been hearing all this stuff in the news about, the unemployment thing. The numbers are going down. New jobs. Uh-huh. I'm well acquainted. I used to work in a butcher shop in high school days, and I'm well acquainted what bologna is. And if I have ever read bologna, this is it. Bologna is a bunch of meat thrown into a meat grinder and stuffed into a casing. And you don't, well, in rough terms, unless it's certified bologna, you don't want to have it for lunch. Let's put it that way. everything from tripe, stomach linings, animals. I mean, all that stuff crammed into sausages. You don't want to mess with it. And that's why I call this baloney. 73% of the new jobs created in the last 5 months are in government. 73% of these new civilian jobs in the United States over the last 5 months are in the government, according to the official data published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. In June, a total of 142,415. Let's back off there. In June, a total of 142,415,000 people were employed in the U.S., according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, including 19,938,000 who were employed by federal, state, and local governments. By November, the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics released today, the total number of the people employed had climbed to 143,262,000, an overall increase of 847,000 people in 6 months since June. In the same 5-month period since June, the number of people employed by government increased by 621,000 people. And so now the total there is 20,559,000. These 621,000 new government jobs created in the last 5 months equal 73.3% of the 847,000 new jobs created overall. Smoke and mirrors? Well, you be the judge. Well, we heard about, we talked yesterday about Jim DeMint, and he is not standing with the Speaker, Senator Jim DeMint, Republican of South Carolina, who shocked Washington on Thursday with the announcement that he would resign his Senate seat in January to become the president of the Heritage Foundation, sent a parting shot at Speaker John Boehner over the fiscal cliff negotiations. He says, "I'm not with Boehner." DeMint said on CNN's Situation Room, "The government doesn't need any more money. This country needs less government." House Republican leaders on Monday proposed a counteroffer to the president in the fiscal cliff negotiations, and the proposal would reduce spending by $2.2 trillion through a combination of spending cuts and entitlement reforms, and would produce $800 billion in new revenue without raising taxes, although the plan doesn't specify how. Smoke and mirrors. That's the way it goes. We'll be back in 60 seconds with more of these interesting things. This is Friday.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, Creation Seminar speaker and president of the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, how similar are birds and dinosaurs?
Chris, has become popular for evolutionists to claim these days that birds are actually dinosaurs, that the dinosaurs aren't extinct, they continue on in birds. How foolish! We suspect that dinosaurs were a special category of reptiles, but reptiles and birds are very, very different. They have a different heart style and different respiratory systems. Their soft anatomy is very different. Their organs are hardly comparable, different in every way. It is true that the skeletons of birds and dinosaurs have many similarities. Humans are similar too, but they're different. And it's been that way ever since, back in Genesis.
If you'd like to go back to Genesis, you can find us on the web at www.icr.org. For the Institute for Creation Research, I'm Chris O'Brien. Thanks for tuning in.
Well, we're all acquainted with the discussion of the mandate, Health and Human Services, Obamacare and all that kind of thing. And in what a pro-life legal group described as a landmark ruling against the Health and Human Services mandate, a federal judge late yesterday ruled against the Obama administration. their assertion that the government's supposed safe harbor was inadequate to protect religious organizations from suffering imminent harm. The writers, in fact, it was Stephen Ertelt with LifeNews.com, writes it this way: "We are pleased that the court recognized the significant harm that the mandate is causing right now." And for he told Life News this: "Religious organizations that object to the mandate are subject to private lawsuits, as well as being faced with critical budgeting and health insurance decisions in the face of millions of dollars in fines. Truly, the safe harbor is neither a harbor nor safe." The U.S. District Court ruling allows the Archdiocese of New York to proceed with its lawsuit against the Health and Human Services mandate. In it, they concluded that there is no trust us changes coming clause in the Constitution. The court further stated that ignoring the speeding train that's coming toward plaintiffs in the hope that it will stop might well be inconsistent with the fiduciary duties that plaintiffs, directors, or officers owe to their members. And so Judge Kogan's comments that First Amendment does not require citizens to accept assurances from the government that if the government later determines it made a misstep, it will take action. There is no trust us changes as they come, or no clauses in the Constitution that say trust us. To the contrary, the Bill of Rights itself and the First Amendment in particular reflect a degree of skepticism toward government self-restraint and self-correction. Well, there you have it. Courts ruled now, yesterday, the HHS mandate doesn't protect religious liberty. Let's watch where this case goes. Well, I have probably a jillion more stories to share with you, and we may end up using some of them, but I will be very honest with you. If I sound anxious or upset, being Friday, I guess I've got the right to do that, okay? Doing talk radio is not always easy, I promise you. Sometimes Jim or I will sit here with our legs locked under the chair. I'm finding it hard to believe this stuff that we have to present to you as coming from legitimate news sources and things that are happening in a lot of the drive-by media that has been defined by numerous talk show hosts, the people who are in the liberal media that won't even talk about it. But the thing that I'm going to talk about now is, well, the story of Chicken Little running around saying the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. I mean, we have people in government who are going around, they have been called environmental wackos, people that are literally disconnected from sanity, claiming that carbon footprints are destroying our culture and that the globe is getting warmer when actually, factually, it is getting cooler. Yeah, it is. And then we see the president worried among his minions that we are worried about the carbon footprint, that truck drivers who may idle their engines overnight to keep their cabs warm enough while they're sleeping in the sleepers because the government told them they can't drive more than so many hours, and so they have to pull over and park and keep a log to verify how long they have been driving, and pull over, and as they're sitting there, well, in fact, some trucks have had to be equipped with other special heaters that don't represent the warmth of the diesel engine to keep the cabs warm. And so you have all of this environmental stuff worrying about carbon footprints. And then we have people like Nancy Pelosi, who instead of taking a commercial airliner back to San Francisco and her location of choice, had to have her own private jet. And then the jet plane wasn't, well, because it had to stop for one time for fuel, she demanded that she have a military-style jet that had more fuel more capacity, so it didn't have to stop, nonstop, all the way to San Francisco. And then it had to be equipped with a liquor bar. And the numbers, if you check that, Google it, liquor bar Nancy Pelosi. Just go to Google, you'll find it. And there you'll find out the foolishness and then this stuff going on at government leaders. Who is going to take charge? Who's going to raise their voice on this? This is sheer insanity. And sometimes I sit here and say, what's the use? Just turn the microphone off and sit here and scratch our head and say, what in the world? And then you hear the environmentalists saying, well, the sky is falling, and we just don't have enough energy, and oil is running low, and we're paying $105 a barrel, and we're going to the gas pump and finding $4 a gallon, and, it's down to $3.50. But when our president started, it was $1.80 a gallon. Then I received, from my good friend Jesse Swanson down in Florida, an interesting story. And it's been checked out. In fact, I'm going to give you even the website, the government website, where you can verify it. But let me read this to you. And if this doesn't, we're talking about, we just don't have enough oil. And we have to go to Saudi Arabia or someplace where we're being held at ransom and our people are being killed and held hostage all for oil. Well, here it is. Better sit down as I read this to you. As you may know, Cruz Construction started a division in North Dakota just 6 months ago. They send every Kenworth, those are those big trucks, 9 trucks. They had 9 trucks that they had in Alaska. They sent them to North Dakota, and several drivers. They just bought 2 new Kenworths to add to that fleet, one being a tri-drive tractor and a new 65-ton lowboy to go with it. They also bought 2 new cranes, one with a crawler, that's like a Caterpillar, and one with rubber tires for that division. Now, Dave Cruz of Cruz Construction said that they have moved more rigs in the last 6 months to North Dakota than Cruz Construction has moved in Alaska in the last 6 years. Williston is like a gold rush town. They moved one of their 40-man camps down there since there are no rooms available. In fact, I personally, my personal note, I talked to a young man who works there in North Dakota, and he said because housing was hard to find, he was sleeping in his car. Well, unemployment in North Dakota is the lowest in the nation. Do you want to know what it is? 3.4% at a recent check. 3.4. See anything in the national news about how the oil industry is fueling North Dakota's economy? You don't hear much in the national news. And here is an astonishing read, important and verifiable information. And you can go and check it. In fact, I have that website on vcyamerica.org. You can go there, click on that website, and you can read it for yourself. About 6 months ago, the writer was watching a news program on oil, and one of the Forbes brothers was a guest. The host said to Forbes, I'm going to ask you a direct question. I would like a direct answer. How much oil does the U.S. have in the ground? And Forbes did not miss a beat. He said, more than the Middle East put together, the whole Middle East. The U.S. Geological Service issued a report in April of 2008 that only scientists and oilmen knew was coming. But it was big. It was a revised report, hadn't been updated since 1995, on how much oil was in this area of the western two-thirds of North Dakota and the western South Dakota and extreme eastern Montana. Now, check this out. The Bakken is the largest domestic oil discovery since Alaska's Prudhoe Bay and has the potential to eliminate all American dependence on foreign oil. The Energy Information Administration, that's the EIA, estimates it at over 503 billion, that's with a B, barrels. Even if just 10% of the oil is recoverable, not 503 billion, just 5 billion barrels, at $107 a barrel, we're looking at a resource base worth more than $5.3 trillion. Trillion with a T. The writer goes on, when I first briefed legislators on this, you could practically see their jaws hit the floor. They had no idea, said Terry Johnson, the Montana's legislature's financial analyst. This sizable find is now the highest producing onshore oil field found in the past 56 years, reports the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. It's a formation known as the Williston Basin, but is more commonly referred to as the Bakken. It stretches from northern Montana through North Dakota and into Canada. And for years, U.S. oil exploration has been considered a dead end. Even the big oil companies gave up searching for major oil wells decades ago. However, the recent technological breakthrough has opened up the Bakken's massive reserves, and we now have access of up to 500 billion barrels. And because this is what they call light sweet oil, these billions of barrels will cost Americans just $16 a barrel. That's enough crude oil to fully fuel the American economy for 2,041 years straight. And if that didn't throw you to the floor, then this next one should, because it's from 2006. U.S. oil discovery, largest reserve in the world. Stansberry report online, and the date there was April 20, 2006. Hidden 1,000 feet beneath the surface of the Rocky Mountains lies the largest untapped oil reserve in the world. It is more than 2 trillion barrels. On August 5 of 2005, President Bush mandated its extraction. In 3.5 years of high oil prices, none has been extracted. And with this load of oil, why are we still fighting over offshore drilling? They reported this interesting and stunning news. We have more oil reserves inside our borders than all other proven resources on Earth. Here are official estimates. 8 times as much oil as Saudi Arabia, 18 times as much oil as Iraq, 21 times as much oil as Kuwait, 22 times as much oil as Iran, and 500 times as much oil as Yemen. And it's all right here in the United States. We'll be back in a minute to talk more about this.
It's not easy to find a quiet place today. Those with children and those in the business world know the busy demands. And in today's technology, we're hearing phones buzzing, email reminders chiming, and text messages chirping. The hectic nature of life gets more intense, where multitasking becomes a 24/7 task. Sadly, it is often spending time with God each day that gets crowded out from busy schedules. To help you regain your focus, VCY is offering a new daily devotional by Nancy Lee DeMoss. It's called The Quiet Place, providing a daily devotional reading for each day of the year. It is the hope of Nancy DeMoss that these readings will stimulate your appetite to dig deeper into God's Word. In a flexible, leather-like binding, these devotionals combine Bible study with practical applications. Copies of The Quiet Place are available for a donation of $20 to VCY America by calling 1-800-729-9829. It's a handy resource for yourself or to share with others. Call 1-800-729-9829.
And welcome back to Crosstalk as we're talking about this humongous find of oil in our country, and yet we have the Chicken Littles of the world running around saying, oh, the sky is falling, we're out of oil. Well, You might ask the question, how can this be? How can we not be extracting this? Because the environmentalist wackos and others have blocked all efforts to help America become independent of foreign oil. And again, we are letting a small group of people dictate our lives and our economy. And the big question is why? Now, James Bardis, a lead researcher with the study, says that we've got more oil in this very compact area than the entire Middle East, and we mentioned more than 2 trillion barrels untapped. That's more than all the proven oil reserves of crude oil in the world today, and this is reported in the Denver Post. Don't think that OPEC will drop its price even with this find. Think again. It's all about the competitive marketplace that it has. Think OPEC just might be funding the environmentalists. Could it be? Now, while you're thinking about this, the suggestion is, why don't you call your congressman and demand to know what the truth is on this? You've got it. Now, we've shared this story with you, but you might say, well, Vic, have you checked Snopes? Have you done this? Let me give you, in fact, I'll tell you where you can find it. This, the thing, what do you call it? The HTTP and HWW and all that kind of stuff is on our website. Go to vcyamerica.org and look at the listing there for the North Dakota oil exploration. There are two, and these are, one is a government website, and the other one is the cruise construction website. Both of these, what do you call them? Is it a URL? Yeah, URL. Both of these URLs are there on our website, which is vcyamerica.org. And you'll see them on our front page. Go there, click on it, and keep your emotions in check, will you? Because here we sit in America with, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but when I say environmental wackos, I mean that. These are people that are nigh close to lunacy. And the inmates have taken over the asylum. And they are running our country into the ground. And was it not our president that wanted to make sure that Brazil was our oil producer or was providing oil? Unbelievable. Jim Schneider just stepped into the studio. And Jim, your thoughts?
Well, Vic, this is certainly this News Roundup Friday brings a variety of issues, and I just became aware of an issue taking place with listeners in McPherson, Kansas, who are listeners to this program, Crosstalk.
Oh, boy.
There's a situation that we just became aware of that's developing in McPherson, Kansas, that is really going to impact communities all across the state, because the city of McPherson is now consulting with its legal counsel. It received a letter from the Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Oh, here in Madison.
Out of Madison, Wisconsin, requesting that the city of McPherson cease its police chaplaincy program. The McPherson Police Chaplaincy Program seeks to give support to officers in their work and counsels individual civilians who are caught in traumatic situations. But the letter to them suggests that the chaplaincy program would infringe on non-believers' rights by exposing both police officers and civilians to unwanted interactions with the police chaplains. They say McPherson should not endorse the religious beliefs of chaplains by calling them to preach to vulnerable people impacted by a crime or accident where whether victims, perpetrators, or witnesses may need counseling. They said it's not appropriate for the government to hold up religious figures as their official agents of comfort and counsel to people, especially those who have recently experienced trauma and are psychologically vulnerable. So Freedom from Religion Foundation says they're not going to rule out litigation. Right now, this has gone into the hands of the city attorney. And we understand from the city administrator and the police chief captain that the city legal counsel is going to be issuing a response here this coming week. The chaplaincy program, it has two pastors that volunteer their time for this program. Mm-hmm. It's not a paid position. It's a pastor from the First Presbyterian Church and a pastor from the Kings Highway Baptist Church. They are volunteer chaplains. And, Vic, I thought it would be appropriate for people, especially in McPherson, but I think all over the country, because if they have success in McPherson, Kansas, they're going to go after your community next with a chaplaincy
and folks,
program.
I'm embarrassed to say that this group is operating out of Wisconsin. They have been wreaking terror on people for decades out of Wisconsin. The Freedom from Religion Foundation. I call them the atheistic Orkin man. They're out trying to stamp out religion. And folks, your voice, today, if you could call the police department and encourage them to contact the Liberty Council, who will take them to court for free. And Matt Staver, who was just on with us yesterday, is well capable of carrying this type of thing all the way to the Supreme Court.
This right now is in the hands of the city administrator and the city attorney. And folks, I'm going to give you their names and a common phone number for them all.
Amen.
The city administrator is Nick Gregory. Nick Gregory. The mayor is Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown. And the city attorney is Jeffrey Houston. Jeffrey Houston. The three of them have a common number there at McPherson. Is not a huge place, but a common number there to the municipal offices for these individuals. And here is the phone number, 620-245-2535. 620-245-2535. And, Vic, it's my opinion that they need to be hearing from all across the nation, people outraged as to this this letter that's come from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, intimidating a small community to give up their volunteer police chaplaincy. And folks, contacts to these key individuals who are thinking about this decision. And, Vic, I'm going to quickly go up and fire off this story and phone numbers to Matt Staver as well.
If you would, please. And also, if you could even share a word with the city administrators. Call them and let them know that Liberty Council is available. I don't even have to ask them. I know they would love to stand behind them. Having served on their board for 10 years, I know that this type of thing is absolutely an outrage. And the dateline on this thing, December 5th, not that long ago, 2 days ago. Well, folks, we got our work cut out for us. And you've got the number. I'm going to give it to you again. I hope about 5,000 of you will call this number today and tell them, first of all, tell them that America rejects the organization called Freedom from Religion. And I don't care if they yell about their lawsuits or their lawyers or whatever. This is a paper tiger in my book. These are people, in my opinion, that are out to terrorize people of faith. And my suggestion is that you encourage the people of faith there in McPherson, Kansas, and let them know that America is looking on and that they need to lean on an organization like Liberty Council who will defend them for free, working out of the largest independent law school in the country. And so, again, that phone number, again, please call them now. Pick up the phone and talk to Nick Gregory, Thomas Brown, Jeffrey Houston. They are all answer to this phone. It's probably a switchboard, and they'll route you to these people. Talk to either Jeffrey Houston, who's the attorney, the mayor, Thomas Brown, or the city administrator, who usually gets the bugs in his teeth as you on the front of the motorcycle. You get it all the time. Nick Gregory. The phone number, 620-245-2535. Here it is again, 620-245-2535. Folks, this is Action Day. When you get done looking at the URLs that I gave you regarding the marketplace and the oil that is available to us, and then, in my opinion, the lunacy that is going on at high levels of our administration, claiming that the sky is falling like little chicken, Chicken Little. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. And the carbon footprint. Every time our president fires up that big 747 jet and streaks through the sky, I get notices every time he flies. Being a pilot, the Association of Pilots has a courtesy that they give to us as pilots. And it notifies us at any time when there's a TFR. A TFR means that there's a president or high-ranking official flying, and we have to stay clear of those areas at certain times, at certain altitudes. And so I get notices. I see these TFRs coming through all the time. And all it means is that more carbon is being generated by these jets that cost $128,000 an hour to run. Folks, this is an outrage. This is lunacy. And we're going to be opening our phone lines shortly. In fact, we're going to open our phone lines right now because the time is going by. Phone number 800-733-9829. Lines are open. Let's hear from you. And I've got more stories. We could go just all day on stories here. But, and don't forget that phone number, McPherson, Kansas, 620-245-2535. Urge them to litigate. Urge them to stand against the Freedom from Religion Foundation. As the reports have indicated to us, that this group is, in the opinion of many, and in my opinion, is wreaking terror on people of faith, frightening them, trying to persuade them to deny their faith, deny the existence of a real God, and to deny the right that they have to exercise their faith. I wonder, isn't there something could be used to sue people of this same persuasion? Well, I don't know, but our phone lines are jammed right at this moment. We're going to be taking your calls as soon as we've got the screening cleared here, and there's so many more stories today. We could go on for hours. We're talking about Iran aims the biological warheads at Israel. This is scary stuff. We're talking about the LGBT rights around the world that are being claimed. As Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said last week that she has stood up for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights all around the world. Thank you, Hillary Clinton. Planned Parenthood, 330,000 abortions, 841 adoptions, and 0 births. Much to brag about. Interesting stuff. Well, let's go to the phones because I see you're on the lines there. Very quickly, get right to the point. Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and Dan, you are on the air. Dan, go ahead.
Hi, Vic. I just had a quick question for you. How would you define the term communism? And I'm thinking along the lines of communist Russia or communist China.
Well, communism is a crude sense of socialism. Socialism comes in; it's communism in a tuxedo, and
well,
it's common.
That is, earlier you had mentioned that the government jobs accounted for 78% of the growth, and if we're all working for the government, wouldn't that more or less make us a communist country?
Oh, sure. And of course,
that's
it's
the direction they're headed.
Well, and they're talking about sharing equally, everyone having a piece of the pie.
Well, in an ideal solution, yes, but we know that's not going to be the case. We've seen it fail miserably in other parts of the world, but that's where our government wants to take us, and that's where all of these government jobs, if we get everybody on the government payroll, then, you're working for us already. Why pay you? We don't have to tax you. We'll just provide for you.
Well, what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 years?
I agree.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Dan. Appreciate it. We're going to go, we've got a break here. We'll be right back. This is Crosstalk on VCY America.
For the Worldview Weekend Minute, I'm Brandon House. Our website is worldviewweekend.com. I know that there are many people today that struggle with fear and anxiety and worry and depression. And as we've learned in our last few commentaries, God does not desire for us to live that way. In fact, Proverbs 12:25 says that anxiety causes depression. Worry brings anxiety. We see that in Luke chapter 12, verses 22 to 32, and in Philippians 4:19. Wrong priorities also bring despair. And a spirit of fear does not come from God. We know that. And we know that God takes care of the righteous. May I ask you today, are you living a righteous life? Are you living a life rightfully in obedience to God's word? Anxiety also calls into question God's power, his provision, his priority, meaning you and I. He loves us. He cares for us. He gave his life for us. And his providence, his divine guidance. Stop the sin of worrying today and get into God's word.
And welcome back to Crosstalk, where the action is moving very quickly here. I've just handed breaking news, coming through, no details yet, but it said the Supreme Court said it will hear 2 constitutional challenges to state and federal laws dealing with the contentious issue of same-sex marriage. In a one-page order on Friday, the court took on what will be one of the most important issues in its history. The decision to review the matter came just weeks after voters approved same-sex marriage in 3 states. Now, oral arguments will likely be held in March, with a ruling by late June. The political, social, and legal stakes of this long, simmering debate will once again put the High Court at the center of national attention, a contentious encore to its summer ruling upholding the massive health care reform law championed by President Obama. Now, there are approximately 120,000 married same-sex couples in the United States, allegedly legal. Earlier this month, voters in Maryland and Washington and Maine approved same-sex marriage, adding to the 6 states and the District of Columbia that already had done so. Minnesota voters also rejected an effort to ban such unions through a constitutional amendment. And so there you have it, folks, breaking news. Let's get to the phones right now because our time is limited. And Fred in Milwaukee. Fred, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, 71 years ago today, we were attacked by foreign enemies, and today we're being attacked by foreign domestic enemies as well. And I just wanted to thank all the veterans everywhere for serving against all the wars of the United States, and I hope our country will be able to continue on, and I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much. Your thoughtful call, greatly appreciated. We're going to go to Josh in Northport, Florida. And Josh, you're on the air. Hello, Josh.
Hi, Vic. I wanted to provide that number for Jeffrey Houston. He's the attorney representing the city that Jim had mentioned earlier.
Yes.
I have his office number here.
All right.
So people can contact his office directly and not have to go through City Hall.
Okay.
But the number is 620.
Now, who? That's the attorney?
Yes, this is the attorney, Jeffrey Houston.
Okay, 620.
241.
241.
0554.
0554. I hope thousands of people will call there, and I want to thank you for giving us that point of contact.
Yes, sir. I hope they call, too.
God bless you, Josh.
Bye-bye.
Folks, again, 2 numbers you can use in this issue of McPherson, Kansas. Now you can get right to the attorney's office, 620-241-0554, or you can call the main switchboard, 620-245-2535, dealing with the threat that's coming from the Freedom from Religion Orkin man or women that are trying to, exterminate religion. That's my opinion. Let's move quickly, and we're going to go to Madison, Wisconsin. And John, you're on the air. Go ahead. Hello, John.
Dick?
John, you're on the air. Mm-hmm.
Okay, hey, Dick.
My name is...
Yeah, I just had a few comments about all that oil that you were talking about in the Bakken Formation there and in the Rockies. Don't you think it's just a little irresponsible to talk about all these oil reserves and all the benefits they could add to our society and not any of the extreme costs that come with developing these oil resources, such as just aggregated all the environmental degradation that occurs.
John, I'm going to interrupt you because you're one of those people that never takes a breath.
That lose their
yeah, as I said, John, it's very irresponsible of you to butt in and not let somebody else confront you. How do you know it's irresponsible of me to give you information? That's the way that you environmentalists try to walk all over people who have common sense. So what is the cost? What is the cost of trucking oil all the way across the ocean and bringing it in here? Oh, yes, Mr. John is irresponsible. Thank you very much. But coming from Madison, what else would you expect? Let's go to Robert. And Robert, you're on the air. Hello, Robert.
Yes, hello. I'm here, Vic. Yes. Okay, I was just calling because I tried to call that number, too. I couldn't get through. But nevertheless, I'm appalled at those people from freedom of religion. Why don't we just ask for freedom from religion people?
Well, that's if you go to the Liberty Council, they're there to protect you, so that the freedom from religion, the atheistic Orkin man, isn't there to take away your right to faith.
Yes, because they're just, to me, they just seem like a bunch of wackos that just hate God, despise, our Christian, Christian religion, and they despise our just our Christianity, period, and they just out to exterminate us like the Terminator.
Yep. In my opinion, someday they're going to step over the line, and somebody's going to bring action against them. I don't know. It's just my opinion. But you continue to irritate people. If you're not worried about a God that, quote, doesn't exist, then cool it. Just sit down and mind your own business. If God doesn't exist, big deal. But the issue of worrying about someone who gets heartburn because they happen to see a creche at the side of the road is lunacy, in my opinion.
Yes, it definitely is.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to New Lisbon, Wisconsin, and talk to Diana. Diana, you're on the air.
Yeah, I was calling to see if anybody has ever thought about inundating the office of the Freedom from Religion group with letters of people who are fed up with the crap they're trying to pull in the all over the United States.
Let's not use crude terminology, okay? But garbage is a good word.
Okay, garbage.
Yes, but the issue there, you certainly have the right to communicate. In America, you have that right. But the issue of them interrupting the freedom of expression, denying the freedom of expression in the First Amendment, how far can you go?
Well,
these people
trying to twist what the Constitution says.
They have been doing this for several decades, and nobody has dealt with them.
Well, that's what we need to do, inundate their office with letters and emails and tweets and everything from everybody that's getting tired of what they're doing.
The Freedom from Religion Foundation. Google it. You'll find it.
Okay. I don't have a computer, but I'll ask one of my kids to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, let's go. Oh, have we run out of time? We have. Folks, that's the end of our program. But thanks for joining us today. This is Friday. Have a great weekend. Honor the Lord. Be in the house of the Lord, and pray for our country. It's in a mess. God bless you.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Take Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208. Or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.